We should be going live right about now. I am checking YouTube. Guys, you want to kind of check LinkedIn just to make sure that we're good to go there too. But we are live. This is No Law Firm Left Behind. Hi, everyone. I'm Jim Gast. And with me today, Dave Myers and Vinny Del Val. Guys, how's it going?
Good. You?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
I'm having
Had a great holiday.
Having a rough day today. You know what, everyone? I'm just going to put it out there. I got an off day going, but I'm doing the best I can. We laid to rest my mom yesterday, and it's been difficult. But Vinny and Dave were there and kind enough to take some pictures. Vinny, are you wanting to share one of those pictures? It was embarrassing.
Okay. You're twisting my arm, so and you put yourself out there.
I'm proud of my youth, Vinny. Yeah. So I got when you do funeral and stuff like that for a loved one, especially parents, usually you're going to be in all the pictures somewhere, growing up and stuff. And Vinny's got he was kind enough to snap yesterday.
I think and let's see, can we see it well here?
Kind of sideways maybe or something like that.
Yeah.
You can kind of get the hair. You can get the hair hat there. Hold it still. Hold
on. This one showed better earlier.
Dude, that was my sweatsuit hair hat days. There you go. Sideways.
Did it show?
It's not showing.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. You can get it. I had a lot of hair.
All you see is the hair outline.
I had a lot of. You do. It's all you see.
The other one here.
Isn't that pretty much the style that you were going for there?
The other one here is
there. And I was not military, I might add. I was not military in that picture.
He's trying to be all tough here on this one.
Oh, not trying, man. I was tough on the west side, dude.
So that was the trick.
So God rest my mom, and so we're gonna move on today. Oh my gosh, I had to smile back then. I was beating the girls off with baseball bats back then.
Yeah,
get rid of them. I had to fight them back hard. It was funny. No,
and then you woke up.
That was definitely not the problem. I didn't have too many people trying to copy the hair either. Yeah. So don't let my son see that because he needs a haircut. I was
going to say, your son pretty much looked like that yesterday.
One of them didn't he? Mm-hmm. Well, listen, guys, this is No Law Firm Left Behind, and thanks for joining us. Sorry we're being silly, but we're going to get down to business, and we're going to talk about unboxing Mimecast and what that is today. But before we get started on that, the reason we're here at No Law Firm Left Behind is to help law firms stay more competitive, right? Be competitive and keep their staff and attorneys as productive as possible, especially during COVID, and get clients calling, give you tips and tricks and techniques on how to get your clients to call. Excuse me. So with that, Vinny, we're going to talk about unboxing Mimecast. And Dave, I'd like your input, Dave. Where do you think Mimecast, from an email security perspective, and we'll talk about the details of what it does, but where do you think Mimecast fits into the three pillars, Dave?
I mean, in my opinion, it's a productivity thing because it keeps us from having major issues that can cause massive productivity delays. I mean, let's face it, email's one of those trajectories where bad actors gain access to your network. And so anytime we can decrease the instances of that, it's good. There's also the fact that, and I hesitate to say it this way, but it gets rid of some of the stumbling blocks for your users on a day-to-day basis. All right.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is there's sometimes an additional level of security can increase the speed with which someone can work. Does that make sense?
Well, I think if you don't mind, if I kind of paraphrase what you're saying, it helps them so they don't have to be as afraid and on guard as much.
Exactly. But at the same time, the reason I hesitate to say that is I don't want anyone to sit there and think, oh, well, we have something like Mimecast. I don't have to think before I click. That's not an accurate thing. But, it does streamline certain processes. It keeps some of the junk out of their face in the first place. Does that make sense? So there's less to ignore.
Vigilance is the key. Always be on guard. No question about it. But if we can stop it before it gets to you, that just means that you have to deal with it less.
One less chance for you to accidentally click on it. It's also if Mimecast can filter something out from the beginning, it's one less decision you even have to bother making.
Yeah.
It's not about lowering your vigilance, it's less distraction.
I think one of the other pillars it hits as well, and we'll touch about this in when we start talking about the product itself, is competitiveness. We have the capability with Mimecast to send large files. We have the capability to send encrypted emails easily to clients. And so with that functionality, I think that gives you a little bit of a competitive edge versus having to send the document out or use an outside service or such.
Yeah, it's actually pretty easy to do. But before we dive into those features, I want to ask Dave if Dave, again, this is Vinny's show, but I want to give us a chance to kind of talk before Vinny takes the show, right?
Sure.
Would you, from a high level, Dave, give the architecture, how Mimecast works with Outlook, Microsoft 365, and so on and so forth, kind of give the flow of that?
So basically, here's what happens. Let's start with the core of the Office 365 email system, and it's got certain protections in place out of the box. And there's other things that you can always turn on, but there's a certain level of anti-malware and whatnot that's turned on for the base email system. Mimecast sits, I would like to say, between your email system and the rest of the world. Okay. And so what happens is it's another layer on top of the Office 365 system. And so all email as it's coming in goes through Mimecast. And once Mimecast says, okay, then it drops it into Office 365. You also set it up so that when you send an email out, it goes to Mimecast. And as long as it's okay, then it goes out to the rest of the world.
Right.
So it really
it's inbound and outbound security, right?
Say again?
Inbound and outbound security, right?
Correct.
Yeah, which a lot of people don't think about the outbound security as much as they should. So, So Vinny, I don't mind if I try to ask a question that might get us ahead of the game. And if you don't want to answer it, you say, I'm going to cover that. Say so. We did Microsoft Advanced Threat Protection. Okay, a few weeks ago, right? Maybe a month ago or something like that. We talked about it. Can I ask, do you want to differentiate Mimecast and Microsoft ATP right now, or do you want to come back to it?
I think as we go along, we will talk about some of the differences between. But I mean, one of the big differences is that the Mimecast system is outside of the Microsoft 365 system itself. So that gives you some of the features that Mimecast offers, like continuity. If the Microsoft 365 system were compromised, or if it were down, last year they experienced multiple outages, right? And they were for pretty good periods of time. And so the Mimecast system, because it's outside of the Microsoft 365 system, it offers those advantages. But we'll talk a little bit about it. I mean, obviously, their focus primarily, their only focus is email security, web security, right, as well, right? And not that Microsoft doesn't focus on that. They have a lot of great products for that. But Mimecast just takes it to the next level. And we'll talk about some of those differences on why they're different from the Microsoft solution as we go along.
Okay, cool. So you ready? You got us just screen share a PowerPoint? What do you want to do?
Yeah, it is a screen share. I have my screen shared. I'm going to go through just a quick thing on the PowerPoint side. Just to talk a little bit about the technology itself, and then compare a little bit to the Microsoft side, and also then I want to get actually to show some of the great functionality from an admin perspective that this tool gives you.
Go for it, brother.
All right, am I shared? Yep, there
you
I am.
are.
All right. Okay, so Mimecast email security, their big selling point or their big thing is that they manage your mail at the perimeter. They protect your mail inside your organization, and they protect your mail beyond the organization as well. And so we'll talk about those three areas. How do we do it at the perimeter? How do we do it inside the organization? And how do we do it beyond as well?
Will you go a little bit bigger on that, just for us? Just go magnify down to the bottom. There you go. There you go. Appreciate it. Yeah.
All right.
Looks good.
That looks good?
Yep, looks good.
Right. So I need to...
Oh, sorry, dude. Threw you off your game. Didn't mean to do that.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Let me close that a little bit there. Oh. So let's talk first about at the perimeter for the email. One of the things that
perimeter, some of the people that watch the show are novices. So real quick, perimeter basically means everything outside of your network. Okay.
Yep.
Everything outside of your network. Now, after the internet side of your firewall.
Well, in this case in particular, we're talking about email. So this is right outside of your email server, right outside of your email services. So this sits outside of your email services, and this email security that it's doing is pretty. It's also a multi-layer. So they have the multi-layers on where it monitors, but also inside each one of those areas, like at the perimeter, there are also multiple layers of things that it's doing in order to detect threats, to detect spam, and to detect attacks against your organization, right? So within the perimeter side, you can see that one of the first things that it does is its core detection. And there it's using, Mimecast has its own labs where it's categorizing things and blocking things and labeling things and tagging things, building its own list, right, in order to detect what is malicious. And they have a lot of proprietary technology that helps to do that. But they also have partnered with third parties. So they're not doing this on their own. And that's one of the big differences between the Mimecast product and the Microsoft product is, they have licensed software that they use in addition to their own, so that they have that multi-layer approach in that core detection piece. And then in addition to that, and Microsoft does this piece as well, is customers themselves can report threats so that they can be added to the detection side of things as well. All right. And you're going to hear my kids in the background. I'm working from home today.
Work from anywhere, man. That's where it goes.
They ain't working from anywhere. So, but one of the other things that it does is the machine learning side, some enhanced filtering that you can put in place. And you can see that in their chart here, that first layer itself can detect and has rejected 1.1 billion messages, over the course of that year. And then as you go down, you can see that the stuff that gets to the core detection gets caught by the enhanced filtering, and then there's another layer that catches more. So you can see a good percentage of email that is a threat or that is spam gets caught. And it really, to keep your firm productive, it takes away all that stuff that they have to go through and weed through. Is this legit? Is this not legit? Okay.
I'm going to add this, Vinny. I don't know. You'll probably. I don't expect that you would say much about it, but even after those come through, okay. Suppose you have it's all good email, right? It's not a malicious email. I'm not worried about spam or newsletters and stuff like that. You still have the focused inbox or the junk mail folder in Outlook that's also doing another job, right?
Yeah, and that's through the Microsoft systems. Right. I mean that's an Outlook feature, right. and tied to the Exchange rules and such.
But it definitely doesn't negate that. Is the point?
Correct. No, this works outside of that. In addition to that, correct. Yep. Right. And some of the things that it's looking for are, for example, the attachment protection. Again, this feature within Mimecast has a multi-layered approach, and the way it inspects things, it goes through several filters and several tests before it actually delivers the attachment to the end user. So that again, it's using they're licensing a lot of products, so they're not relying completely on themselves, on them catching everything. Although they do have a lot of good proprietary filters, but they're partnered with some great organizations out there that are also helping to filter this. So, again, one of the biggest to me advantages of the Mimecast product versus the ATP product is the multi-layer approach that they have. Mm-hmm. So, if it gets past one, the other one may, it's very possible that the next layer will catch it.
And it explodes documents actually, or files, mm-hmm. to check them in this environment many times.
Yes. Yeah, and that's similar to Microsoft, where inside of a sandbox, inside of a test environment, you can do safe attachments in Microsoft and the ATP product, mm-hmm. And similar on the Mimecast side, that file gets checked before it gets delivered.
This is an automated function you can turn on or off.
Correct.
And there's nothing like, you don't have to set up that lab and that test environment. It already does it all. It's really just a matter of, I'm simplifying it, but just clicking a checkbox almost.
Yeah, well, it's part of their tool. It's part of their tool set, and it's included in their products as far as the email security piece. Yes.
And the reason I'm bringing these points up is obviously the audience is kind of diverse. We might have some highly technical people, but we might have some attorneys or CEOs of companies that are just kind of, I don't want a whole lot of work, right? And, okay, well, we're not creating more work. This doesn't create more work.
One of the details on this that you can configure on the attachment, for example, is it can create safe files. Basically, it's taking the file that comes in and stripping everything out of it that could potentially be an issue, and deliver just a blank file, or not a blank file, but just a basic, either a PDF file or any type of Office file as well. So it's a nice feature. That is not turned on by default. That's something that you would have to turn on, but it's one of those things where you can have an extra layer of protection in the files that come in, so you can be extra careful on what gets delivered to the end user at that point. Okay. Just like the Microsoft ATP, they also offer the URL protection. It goes a little bit further than the Microsoft ATP side. The URL protection is when there's a link included either in a document or in the email itself. It will always. This covers also your Teams, chats, anything on the Microsoft product side. When you click on those links, it's doing multiple checks on that URL to ensure that link is safe. One of the tactics that spammers use, or even hackers use, is they spin up a new domain. They constantly have to be on the move because people become aware of it, and that domain basically becomes useless to them because you can easily block a domain. So one of the checks that it does, for example, is that it checks to see how long ago was that domain purchased and brought live, right? So that that plays into the factor, or into the algorithm of, should this email be blocked? Should this be considered suspicious or not? Right? It's looking at third-party domain lists. You can create your own lists internally as well, of things to block and not to block. It will actually occasionally test your users to say, hey, you clicked on this link. Do you think this is a safe link or not? And and if it is, it'll say good job, and it'll let you through. And if it's not, it will tell you why it was not. And so it's a little bit of training, which some of those things go beyond what Microsoft ATP does.
Yeah.
But as users click on links as well, it tracks that information to make sure that you're looking at that as an administrator and saying, okay, where are our weak points? Where do we need to focus our training as you look at those reports as well?
Something that many people know about Mimecast, and it's security. So security is not fun. It can be an annoyance sometimes. Let's face it. A user clicks on a link, and it was a bad link, and it stops them. Well, guess what? How many more times are we going to allow that user to just click on a link that's bad? So what it does is it keeps an algorithm, keeps track of how many times it's good or bad clicks. And if you're doing bad clicks, you're going to get prompted more often if you think this is a bad link or not. Now, fortunately, that only lasts for like a week or so, and that algorithm kind of recycles itself. But if you're doing bad links, it's going to ask you more times, do you think this is a legitimate link? Do you think this is a legitimate link? The other thing I like about this URL detection, Vinny, is that if you forward that email, the URL detection stays with it. Okay. So if I forward it to somebody in my organization, they click it, and it's that URL is now still the same URL, and it gets logged, right, and gets checked. But if I send it outside the organization, it's checked also to somebody that's outside of my organization.
Yep. And it checks that link, and every time you click it, if I open that email 6 times and I click on that link 6 times, it's going to check it every single time. And the reason for that is, a website may have no issues one day, but then they get hacked, and the next day they may have issues. And because this tool does a deep inspection of the page contents, right? It's not just checking the link against the list, saying is it good or bad. It's not checking just the when the domain was purchased and spun up. It's not checking reputation lists only. It's actually doing an analysis of the website every single time to make sure that it's safe to click on. So again, an extra layer of protection that you have every single time you click on that link.
Yep. It's a great feature. It's almost a necessity. Some people get annoyed by it. I'm telling you,
So in full disclosure, it actually takes the website that you click on an extra 10 seconds or so to
not
launch.
10 seconds. Not 10 seconds. It's not 10. It's a millisecond to a second. It never takes that long. Now, if you get the prompt, you get the prompt. If you get the prompt, then you have to answer it. It can take that long. My experience has been on most websites it's about 3 to 5 seconds to open up, which is not for what you're getting. One of the things that we used in the ATP side was when you get home, you lock the door, and when you have to leave, you have to unlock that door, and that's that extra layer of security. I think it's a good trade-off, right? Internet speed can vary as well. So I work from home a lot. I'm on Wi-Fi. If you ask me.
Yeah.
Computer there, man.
Maybe I need to talk to somebody about that.
Yeah, you got a boss that you can talk to about that.
But yeah, it's not instant. Like it normally is. There is a slight delay on there,
but well worth it.
Yep, absolutely well worth it. Then the other thing is impersonation attacks. This is really, really an important piece. This is the most common way that's being used right now. There's a lot of social engineering taking place, and impersonation and phishing attacks. This is really the one of the big selling points to me. They do a superb job on this aspect of their filtering. We can, you can configure your own, right? That's the first thing. Is it on one of the configure block lists, right? You can configure your DNS records and your DMARCs and all that stuff, right? All that it's going to check all of that. right? It's going to do reputation check. So every mail server now has a reputation, depending on the amount of mail that goes out, the amount of it that's considered spam, and so on and so forth. So and that changes as that goes up and down throughout the month, throughout the year, for different it all depends on your utilization, how you're using your mail, how you're sending to users. Folks that send a lot of marketing through third parties and such, and if they don't have things configured correctly, they can easily get graylisted and get into a bad reputation on it. But it's so the impersonation attacks is using that as well. That's the regular spam filtering. It's doing the regular content checks, right? But the impersonation is like, how do I know that email that came from our CEO is actually the CEO, right? And that's really what we need to make sure of. And nothing is foolproof. There are things that are going to get through, but this tool does a really, really good job at so we talk about domain names, and sometimes certain characters put together can look like another letter, and they use
capital I's look like L's.
Correct. Yep. And so that type of thing is one of the cool features I like. It's one of the small features, but I think it's important. Even when you're talking about different alphabets, right? There's some letters in the Russian alphabet that look like letters in the English, in the Latin alphabet, in the English alphabet, and so we and they can trick a user, right, into going into a false site or going to a false link, or coming from a false email, right? And so this tool checks all of that. I mean, it is pretty sophisticated on what it does, and we could talk about it, but we don't have hours to talk about it. So it does a really, really good job at the impersonation attack side at multiple levels.
It's looking at the important people too. I mean, there's algorithms there to detect who are the important people in your organization, a CEO versus a bookkeeper, and it's also looking at that content too. Does that person send invoices or payment requests to that person? So the algorithms look at the content also for impersonation.
Yep, it's looking for content as well. Yep. So, but yeah, so those are some of the protections that it has on the perimeter side. And all of that happens, the attachment, the URL, the impersonation, all that happens before the email gets to the end user, before it even gets to the mail server, to be honest, because that's why it's the perimeter, right? So it never even hits your mail server before it goes through all those filters and all those tests.
And that could be an on-premise mail server, and can be Microsoft 365 or even Gmail for that matter.
Yep. Correct.
So.
Yep. Inside your organization, those filters are all still in place. All right. So all the email protections that you have in place from an external perspective is also happening on the inside. You're not losing any of those protections, even though the product sits on the outside. You're not losing any of those protections on the inside. All of those protections are in place to protect your user from impersonation, from malicious emails, and from
Vinny, I want to make this. I want to give so a lot of people don't understand that inside, right? Dave, can you kind of tell us how Mimecast works? If I send in our organization, if I send Vinny an email, how does that email flow, and how does it work with Mimecast before Vinny gets it?
So that actually, you have to configure things a certain way to get that protection in place. It's not by default. You can. I don't want to get hyper technical, but there are settings that you put in place on the Office 365 side where you can say, hey, route internal stuff through Mimecast or not.
Right.
So if you don't have that configured, then this protection within your organization would not be present. So you got to make sure that you set that up.
Yeah.
So Dave, what you're saying is it goes from my Outlook to Microsoft 365 to Mimecast, checked, sent back if safe to Microsoft 365 to Vinny's Outlook.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm going to just say it. You want to have this protection on the inside as well as the outside. I mean, a machine can get infected outside of the email system, and then potentially send emails, and you want to make sure that you have that protection. So even though it is an extra step, it is part of the onboarding process within the Mimecast system. When you onboard, it's optional, but to me, it's not optional. It's something we definitely need to always have in place for folks. Otherwise, you're leaving yourself somewhat exposed. You're taking away one of the layers of protection.
I mean, there's so many emails that go from person to person in an organization. And I think it's important to mention also with work from home, it doesn't matter if you're sitting at your office working. It doesn't matter if you have a laptop working at home with your Outlook, okay, or working on your web or on your phone. That protection with Mimecast is in place everywhere you're using your email: home, work, mobile, kids' basketball game, so on and so forth. Right?
Yep. The other thing is, so you mentioned that. You mentioned that. Go ahead.
And if you're going to talk about this, Vinny, I'm going to just defer to you what you're about to say. But Jim, you mentioned like the work from anywhere, et cetera, the mobile app. Vinny, are you planning on touching on some of the mobile application?
I am not. That is a functionality. It was going to be a mention only because we don't have time to get into it and to get into
a lot of your Mimecast stuff from your mobile phone app.
Yes.
Yeah, I use the mobile phone app, Mimecast mobile phone app, daily. I happen to be the guy that kind of reviews all the stuff that doesn't make it to the end users. Okay, I do that. I like to make sure that I'm not missing anything, and I'm making sure that the end users or other people in the organization aren't missing it. So I could look at all of the stuff that's been trapped and caught, and occasionally there's some stuff there. I mean, maybe once a day or something like that. I'm like, okay, go ahead and send that to Dave. I know who that is, So, and that app also, Vinny, when you get to talking about the redundancy, make sure you mention an app.
Yeah. So, okay. Sorry. We haven't gotten to the redundancy part yet, but right now we're talking about the protections. And so one of the other areas that is covered is outbound emails, so emails that you send to your business contacts, to your customers, vendors, whatever it is. All of those protections are also in place. All those protections that we talked about also in place for any email that you send out. Right? You want to make sure that your reputation stays up. You want to make sure that not only your business reputation, your email reputation, lots of other things. You need to have control of what leaves your mail server, and so this outbound protection piece makes sure that every email that leaves your organization follows the rules as well.
And this is not on by default, right? This is something you have to configure, right, guys?
It's part of the onboarding process as well. It is optional, but again, this is something that everyone should have turned on.
So if my computer gets infected and something's scrolling through all my Outlook emails and sending mass emails to all of my contacts with an attachment, it's going to stop it before it goes too far.
It's potentially that this will catch it as well, but Microsoft will probably catch you before that because if you send too many emails at within a certain time period, Microsoft 365 will automatically. But there's a number of protections with it. But yes, this system would detect that as a problem.
Any caveats on that, Dave?
Just my standard. Nothing's 100%.
Nothing's 100%. We got to get that out there.
That is true. So some of the other functionality, like Jim was talking about, is so outside of your organization, how do you protect your emails? How does this tool help you outside of your organization? Beyond the perimeter, these are some of the options that they have in regards to outside of the organization and the different things that Mimecast does from an email perspective to help protect you there. But, one of the things that's not on this slide that Jim wanted me to touch on was the redundancy piece. Because your email will be configured to go through Mimecast first. If the Microsoft 365 system goes down, and we touched on this earlier, if the Microsoft 365 system goes down or is compromised, and it's not usable, your email will continue to flow through Mimecast, and you can send and receive emails through the Mimecast app, right? And that kind of functionality has to be enabled. That's not on by default, but it is an option, and it's a great option. We've had customers work this way for a week because of compromised systems.
Right,
And so it works. It does a really good job. It still protects you. It still goes through all the same functionality, but it gives you that extra layer of redundancy. Mimecast can also be used for recovery.
Before you hop off of recovery, hold on a second. I want to add the plugin for Mimecast that's on Outlook gives you the same Outlook interface to fail over. And so if you fail over, it's a matter of just sending an email in your Outlook, almost the same as normal. Plus, on your mobile app, you don't use the Outlook app on your mobile. You use the Mimecast app on your mobile device. But when you get to that point where you're ready to fail back over, Vinny, I think the great thing about it is all that email comes back into those inboxes and in all those, all those outboxes and sent items and so on and so forth.
Correct.
But it's within Outlook. You're not going to another app for it. There's a Mimecast plugin for Outlook. There's a Mimecast app for your phone, or you can use the portal. There are multiple ways to do it, and you can configure your users to be able to access any or none of those. You can pick and choose. There's a lot of granular access that you can give on that as well. The redundancy piece allows you to work. It's not 100% normal, but it is pretty close, and it is pretty good. It works really well.
A whole lot better than not having it.
Oh, yes.
I was going to say, dang, dude.
That's right. That's right. It is better than having anything at all.
And let's face it, when a business is hit and they are brought down and to their knees because of a hacker, almost the first thing they always want, email. Give me email. Yep. Give me email. Give me email. Yep. And this makes that a lot better than not having it.
There's and let me just throw in, I know, because Vinny, I know you were focusing on mostly the security and protection aspect of things, but I do want to just throw in two more features.
Yep, go ahead. I'm going to pull this up for you.
One is large file send, but the other one that I find even more important, I don't recall you talking about it, but the secure messaging.
Yeah, we did. We mentioned both of those.
So didn't yelling at my kids or something when you did that part.
Yeah. So there is. Yeah. So even for obvious reasons, have limitations on the size of a file that you can send via email, and the Mimecast has a tool that helps in that you log into a website to send a file, right? And it's secured, and it's secured, and it's controlled as well.
That can be done directly from Outlook. You don't have to log into a site to do it.
Right.
Yeah, you can do it from Outlook.
The customer would
they would.
They
would get it. It essentially becomes they're downloading it from secure portals. What they're downloading it from.
But you can use a secure portal even without document delivery. So, like, extremely sensitive information, you can set up Mimecast. Your users can specifically call something out to send via secure message, but you can also set up policies that basically say, hey, if an email goes out that has a social security number in it, for example, it's going to take that email that you attempted to send out, it's going to convert it into a secure message and send a link to the user.
And then tell the user that sent
instead of going to the email. So there's so many different. It's like a Swiss Army knife of tools that you can create whatever security setup you want.
And it'll tell the user, by the way, hey, you tried to send a message that had something that broke a policy. We converted it to secure message and sent it for you, and it'll give you that message back.
I've got one client that they, rather than getting a dedicated metadata redaction tool, we're using Mimecast to automatically strip all metadata from all document attachments unless they include the word redline in the subject line, in which case Mimecast will bypass that rule and leave all the metadata in there.
Yeah,
so many. You can do so much stuff with this. It's unbelievable.
There are and we can talk a lot about it. Some of that functionality. Definitely, you can protect against personal identifiable information, like you said. Social security numbers, credit card numbers, whatever it is. If it has that, it will require encryption, and you can set it up to stop the email before it's sent, or you can set it up to automatically encrypt the email for them. So there's a lot of different things that it can do, and again, you're protecting your inbound mail, but you're also protecting your outbound mail. And so
your reputation just across the board to make sure customers, hey, it talks about competitiveness again,
I get emails, and we do this all the time, guys, and we've dealt with a number of accountants in the past, and they'll just send willy-nilly, oh, here's your tax return. Really? You know what I mean? Let me tell you something. When I see that, I question that person's professionalism and security and so on and so forth. And I consider, should I be still using that party, or should I move on to somebody else? That's competitiveness. You basically shot yourself in the foot with me when you've done that, and anybody security savvy, that is a customer of yours and you're a vendor, you got to consider the possibility they're looking at that too.
Yeah.
So it's competitiveness. So Vinny, you want to show some Mimecast stuff?
Yeah, and we're running out of time, but just wanted to show some of the quick high level stuff that you have your quick dashboard that you can look at to see what's happening inside of your organization. Like Jim mentioned, he reviews the held messages that are coming in to what's legitimate, what needs to be released, and my computer's there it goes. It tells you the reasons on why things are being held. A lot of impersonation protection here going on, and so this quick dashboard. I'm not going to get into the details as far as what's being held and what's been released, but you can look at the actual emails that are being held, what's been released. All of this is fully auditable.
Because I was actually just going to ask that. If somebody goes in, you can actually view all the content of the held messages within the administrative portal, right?
Yep. The Mimecast side also, one of the functionalities we did not get into is that, when you have something like a legal hold or some type of discovery process, the Mimecast tool is something that can be used for that as well. Everything's logged, everything's held. Once it gets into Mimecast, it's there. Users cannot delete it. I mean, it is a really good security tool. It goes an extra step beyond just spam filtering and end user protection. There's a lot of functionality within the Mimecast tool that we can't even begin to get into in the short time that we have. But we can potentially talk about it in another show.
There's a little aside here as well that from our perspective, looking at it from like the SpliceNet side for just a minute, is Mimecast delivers a lot of value to managed service providers as well. So it gives the people that are responsible for helping you, maybe you're a shop that doesn't have an internal person managing Mimecast. It gives companies like ours the ability to really do a lot to easily manage and tweak for our customers. So it means that as your needs change, the company that you're working with has a lot of functionality and can make the changes really quick for you. So I really like that managed services provider interface that it provides for us.
Yep. Just some of the configurations pieces that you can do within the tool itself. Again, here we have who are managed, who the senders are, setting policies. Here are that this is the message center where we can again a lot of details as far as what's going on within the organization itself. I was going to show this guy here, the archive piece. This is where if you have a litigation holder, if you're doing a discovery case, if you need to retain, this is where you would go to manage that, view the logs for that case, and there's a mailbox on hold. This is where you would go to get that information as well. There's the monitoring piece, the attachments,
the prevention part where we're looking at the DLP data that people are sending out, who tried to send what, is a big one.
Yep. So email, again, outbound protection as well as inbound protection is managed here. Some reporting
policies. These are all policy areas, is what you're.
Yeah. Well, some of it's policies and some of it's our views to actually see what's going on. Right. So I'm just giving a quick snapshot because I can't go through every single one of these tabs. The reporting piece, again, you may need to do executive reports. You may need to do IT reports. You may need to do reports because that's what you're required by your standard, right? They have some great reporting.
I work with several customers and we do monthly reviews of all their security stuff, and their Mimecast reports are a key piece of going through and saying, hey, here's what we've blocked, here's what got through. Helps you identify maybe, hey, here's some of your clickers that we might want to, have a re-education with.
Guys, I'll agree from an HR perspective, or from a process perspective. We know that our help desk, the people on our help desk, we don't like them to be emailed directly. Okay. We want them to email our help desk email address, right? And so if I see a number of emails going in or outbound to their individual email addresses, we have to question, okay, is somebody going outside of process, right?
And there's a really cool report in the Mimecast report that shows all your most frequent pairings.
Who's sending in the most?
Who's sending to who and who's receiving from who on a most frequent basis.
I love that one. And here's the thing also from an HR perspective, who's actually sending emails and receiving emails of resumes or job ads, you know what I mean?
Yep.
There's so many different variables like that. If somebody's getting ready to leave your organization and they normally send out 400 emails a week, and they're all of a sudden sending out 800 emails a week, what's going on there, right? Is it a hacker or is somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing? Lots of reports, automated reports.
Yep. Some of the other things, if you want to control what your emails look like on the way out, you can do your signatures here, your stationaries, your branding, everything that you want from within the portal as well.
Yeah, I like this for the IRS circular. What's it called, Dave?
The good old circular 230.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so if you got a stationary, not a signature, but it is.
The disclaimers. Yeah.
Yep. And then again, some of the web security stuff. One thing we didn't touch on that Mimecast also offers as an add-on is security training, similar to like the Know Before tool that we talked about some time ago. The security training that Mimecast offers and the phishing tests that it can do, those are add-on options that they offer now. Again, one tool. One single pane of glass to manage all your web and email security.
If I'm not mistaken, Vinny, of all the things we talked about today, and Dave, maybe you can touch on this too, real quick. I'd say probably 75% of the things we talked about is in their base product. Am I mistaken there?
Well, Mimecast has.
I would say with regards to the protection, 75%. A lot of these other features, in particular, failover, secure messaging, large file send, a lot of these added functionalities, those are add-ons.
Right.
The protection piece is,
and they do have some great bundles that puts all this stuff together, right? And so they do have different tiers. You can get this, or you can get things as add-ons. So you can have this tier, and I want this actual function as well.
Add-ons,
right? So it's very, very flexible in the way you purchase your licensing through Mimecast.
The majority of our add-ons are $1. per person.
Yeah,
you know?
and I mean the thing is that this is not some exorbitantly expensive tool set. I mean, we talked about ATP earlier. Is this more expensive than ATP? Yes, it is.
A little bit.
But you're getting a different product. You're really, you're getting a lot more than just the ATP stuff. Okay. And I can say, and you guys,
you're getting a Cadillac. I don't know if there's any anti-Cadillac.
My Microsoft friends aren't going to like that a whole lot, but
I have had one customer in 5 years say, I don't know, I don't think I want to continue with this.
Too much.
Move on to something else. That's one out of all the people that we put onto it. Everyone else has said, for the money, it's absolutely worth every penny.
Yeah. In comparison, it's probably a couple bucks more per month for a nice bundle product, right?
Yep.
Than ATP, but you're getting a different product. ATP is great. It does a good job. It's not customizable. What's that, Dave?
ADP does a great. I just rolled out a new ATP deployment yesterday. I deploy ATP all over the place. It's a great product.
But it doesn't go as far as Mimecast does. And here's the thing I like about it. I like the separation. You know what I mean? I like the segregation between email security and email platform, right? I'm not saying it's our absolute go-to.
I don't mean that in a bad way, but you've got another set of eyes, a whole other system laid on top of it. So you get the benefit of, what Microsoft has in place, which is substantial, but now you're adding an entirely other layer of security, independently substantial on top of it. What we say over and over and over again is the more layers you can put in between yourself and the threat actor, the more likely, or let me rephrase that, the less likely you will be subject to a data breach event.
You got it. Well, guys, let's close this up here if you don't mind. I'm going to go ahead and pop up on the screen. This is obviously we're No Law Firm Left Behind. We have a LinkedIn group called No Law Firm Left Behind too, where we dump all this information, a lot of great content we push into this. The live stream is obviously shared into there, and we share other important information and ask a lot of questions of the community and answer a lot of questions for the community. So please go join our No Law Firm Left Behind group on LinkedIn, and there's the great big ugly link that LinkedIn is not kind enough to share. Sorry, I wish I could make it better. However, this week I'm adding a nice, cool feature. There's our QR code, actually. So there it is. Wait, there it is. Anyway, just moving it over a little bit. Use your phone and take you put your camera on the QR code, and it goes to our link tree. And on our link tree, you will find a bunch of links about, to our podcast, because we turn most of our live streams into podcasts. You'll find a link to the No Law Firm Left Behind group on LinkedIn, a link to our YouTube channel, and ways to ask us questions as well. So by all means, grab that if you can. And anything else, guys?
No, I think it went great.
Vinny, thank you so much. I think you did a great job covering it.
Thanks. I wish I could have gotten to more. I had limited time, so I kind of focused on one of Mimecast. And you guys asked some great questions. I think there's a lot more to talk about, and we just touched on just some of the other functionality that's out there. So that's great.
Yeah, great job, guys. Well, listen again. Take care. Next week we are talking about marketing. Is that right? Doing some marketing talk. Law firm marketing, I think, is next week.
Yeah. Yep. That's you, Jim.
Next week. So we're talking about marketing for law firms next week. I think, guys, we're going to dig into Google My Business, actually. I'm really excited about this topic because it's really, Google's going very local. So next Tuesday, 10:30 Eastern time, join us again on No Law Firm Left Behind. We're going to talk about Google My Business for law firms. Guys, thanks a lot. Great job, Benny. Thank you.
Have a good day.